She vanished inside one of the most heavily monitored buildings on Earth, and not a single camera caught where she went. Before we dive in, leave a comment. Where in the world are you watching from? And don't forget to hit subscribe. Tomorrow, we've got another mind-blowing story for you. It was the kind of summer morning that felt suspended between excitement and exhaustion inside London's Northgate International Airport. A sprawling maze of glass, polished steel, humming escalators, and glowing signage. A place where thousands of stories pass through without touching, where strangers move like streams, merging and breaking apart again. At 8:14 a.m. on August 17, 2013, a 10-year-old girl named Emily Rhodes stepped off the Heathrow Express with her mother and her mother's boyfriend, dragging a pink backpack with a frayed unicorn keychain along the floor. She wasn't excited. She wasn't afraid. She was just watching. People who knew her always said the same thing. Emily noticed everything. She was the quiet child who absorbed the world like it was a puzzle only she could solve. She could tell you which cashier at the corner shop always wore mismatched earrings, or how the cat next door only limped when it wanted sympathy. That morning, she wore jeans with glitter stars on the pockets and a navy t-shirt with a faded constellation across the front. Her hair was clipped back with a sparkly barrette, and she had that slight, thoughtful squint she always got when she was trying to figure out how big the world really was. This wasn't her trip. She wasn't flying anywhere. Her mum, Karen Rhodes, and Karen's partner, Daniel, were headed to Barcelona for a 4-day holiday, their first trip together since Karen's divorce 2 years earlier. Money had been tight. Emily was supposed to spend the week with her dad in Kent, while the adults finally had a break. The plan was simple. Arrive at Terminal 3. Check in. Walk together to the inter-terminal shuttle. Meet Emily's dad at Terminal 5. Hand her over. Loop back in time for their own flight. 2 terminals, a 15-minute walk, a route thousands of families take every single day. There is nothing unusual in the footage at first. At 8:19, the CCTV inside Terminal 3 shows them entering the departures concourse. Karen leads the way, denim jacket, phone in hand. Daniel pushes a luggage trolley one-handed while scrolling on his screen. Emily walks between them, the unicorn keychain bouncing at her side. She looks around constantly, the giant departure board flickering with delays, the polished floor reflecting luggage wheels, a toddler crying near the coffee stand, a security dog weaving through passengers. In one frame, she tilts her head and smiles softly at the dog. In the next, she leans into her mum, pointing something out. Everything about that morning looks normal, ordinary, forgettable, until you remember what happens next. Because this is the last day anyone sees Emily Rhodes alive. The family sits near a row of silver metal chairs while waiting for check-in to open. The camera angle is distant, distorted slightly by glare from the windowed ceiling. You see them talking, slowly, casually, the easy routine of a family used to juggling transitions. At 8:32, they check in the luggage. At 8:38, Karen tucks printouts into her bag. At 8:44, Daniel jokes about overpriced airport food. At 8:50, they begin walking toward the exit that leads to the shuttle corridor. At 8:52, the sliding glass doors open, and the camera catches all three from the back as they leave Terminal 3. This clip becomes one of the most replayed seconds of footage in the entire case. Investigators watch it hundreds of times. Internet sleuths, thousands. Because although no one knows it in this moment, this is the last clear image of the trio together. After those doors close behind them, everything changes. The corridor between Terminals 3 and 5 looks unremarkable. Long stretches of neutral-colored walls, directional arrows, occasional digital ads. The kind of space where you lose your sense of geography, where light bounces off tile and echoes bounce off nothing, where thousands of feet scuff along without leaving meaning behind. They walk through a bridge corridor overlooking the drop-off lanes, then past a row of rental car counters. Emily lags twice, once near a promotional display of toy suitcases, and once to stare out the glass wall at a plane taxiing in the distance. Each time, Karen gently calls her back. Nothing alarming. Nothing strange. Nothing to suggest this walk will become the central mystery of the next decade. At 8:59, they step onto the platform for the interterminal shuttle. The train is already waiting, its overhead lights flickering faintly with the hum of morning electricity. Internal CCTV catches them boarding. Emily hops the small gap between the platform and the carriage, gripping the pole with both hands. Daniel stands behind her. Karen tucks her hair behind her ear as she enters last. The shuttle doors close. That sealed box of metal and fluorescent light becomes the final place Emily is unquestionably accounted for. The train glides forward at 9:01. The footage shows Emily shifting her weight from foot to foot, looking up, looking around, staring at the map, asking her mother a question, and finally, in the frame that will haunt investigators, glancing toward the opposite door of the carriage, as though something catches her eye. The ride lasts 4 minutes. The footage is silent. But in many ways, this is the moment the story begins. Because at 9:05, when the doors open at the Terminal 5 platform, Emily does not get off. The doors slide open. Passengers spill out into the bright fluorescence of the station. Karen steps out. Daniel follows. The trolley emerges behind him. And Emily, who should be between them, is not there. The next frame shows a man in a dark jacket passing through the exact spot she should have occupied. The footage glitches for half a second. When the image returns, Emily is gone. Not behind them, not ahead of them, not on the platform, not visible in any direction. According to the timestamp, only 14 seconds pass between the doors opening and the glitch. 14 seconds for a child to disappear inside one of the most secure buildings in the United Kingdom. 14 seconds that would ignite one of the strangest investigations in London's modern history. And within 20 minutes, Karen would be standing at an information desk, crying, shaking, trying to say the one sentence that would turn her entire world inside out. I can't find my daughter. In the first few minutes, no one panics. Airports are noisy. People get separated, drift behind, stop to tie a shoe, pause at a vending machine. Staff at Northgate are used to it. A child missing for 5 minutes is a routine inconvenience, not an emergency. At 9:11 a.m., Karen stands at the information desk in Terminal 5, one hand gripping the counter, the other still clutching the handle of the trolley. She was right behind us, she keeps saying. She was on the train. She was on the train. The agent on duty, a woman in her 30s with a tight bun and a practiced calm, does what she's been trained to do. Okay, Mum? What's her name? Emily. Emily Rhodes. How old is she? 10. What's she wearing? Karen's answers spill out too fast, tangled and breathless. Jeans. Blue jeans with stars and a navy t-shirt with, space on it. Constellations and a pink backpack with a unicorn. Please, she was right here. The agent nods, fingers already moving across her keyboard. She presses a small button, hidden under the desk, that alerts security operations. A code amber is declared internally. Not an evacuation, not a bomb threat. A missing child alert. In most cases, code amber is resolved within 15 minutes. The agent gently suggests the obvious possibilities. She might have stepped off behind you, love. Maybe she's still on the platform. Or she could have followed the crowd up the escalators instead of staying with you. Karen looks over her shoulder at the moving sea of bodies beyond the desk. No, she says. No, she knows to stay with me. But they go through the motions. At 9:13, the agent calls down to the shuttle platform. At 9:14, a staff member is sent to look. At 9:15, Emily's name is paged over the Terminal 5 PA system for the first time. Would Emily Rhodes, age 10, please make herself known to a member of staff? Emily, your mum is waiting for you at the information desk. The words float up into the bright glass rafters and dissolve. No one answers. We often imagine missing persons cases beginning in the dark, in isolated places, with a single bad decision, or a wrong turn down a lonely road. But a shocking number of disappearances start exactly like this, under fluorescent lights, in a crowded, supposedly safe space, in full view of other people who are too busy to notice. Security staff review the first facts as they come in. Female, 10 years old. Last seen boarding shuttle at Terminal 3. Separated from guardians sometime between shuttle departure and arrival at Terminal 5. Missing less than 15 minutes. A supervisor, Martin Hale, arrives at the desk. He's calm, composed. That particular airport, kinda tired. He's been working terminals for 12 years. He's dealt with medical emergencies, drunken passengers, domestic arguments that boiled over at the gate. Missing children are, statistically, almost always found within the same building. He kneels slightly so he's eye level with Karen. When did you last physically see her? He asks. On the train, Karen says. She was right beside me. I held her hand when we got on. And when the doors opened at this terminal, I thought she was behind us. I thought she was with Dan. I came out first, and... She gestures helplessly at the open space behind him. She wasn't there. Hale turns to Daniel. And you? Daniel rubs a hand over his face. I was fiddling with the bag. I thought Karen had her. She doesn't wander. She's not like that. Hale nods, but his mind is already building a map. Shuttle carriage, doors, platform, escalators, exits. The first assumption is simple. Emily is somewhere between the shuttle platform and this desk. Maybe she stopped at a restroom. Maybe she followed the wrong group. Maybe she panicked and froze near the platforms. Children that age can move faster than parents realize. But even as they talk, he's already radioing in something that will change the tone of the search. I want eyes on the shuttle platform and the concourse from 8:55 onward, he tells Control. Pull footage. I want a visual confirmation of the child leaving the train. Copy? The reply crackles back. Copy. We're pulling now. Every big airport has a nerve center. At Northgate, it's an unremarkable room behind a secured door on a nondescript corridor. Security Operations Control. No windows, wall-to-wall monitors, endless rows of time-stamped video feeds cycling through. At 9:18 a.m., a controller named Priya Shah rewinds the footage from the Terminal 3 shuttle platform. She finds Karen, Daniel, and Emily boarding the train. She sees the pink backpack, the unicorn charm, the way Emily jumps the gap, holding onto the pole with both hands. "Got her," she says softly to herself. She lets the footage play. The shuttle doors close. The carriage lurches forward. The camera feed from inside the train flickers through its ride, the slow rock, the passengers shifting their weight, the occasional movement as someone checks their watch. Priya watches as Emily looks around, turns slightly, tugs at her mother's sleeve. She scribbles down the timestamp. 19:1:37. Child visible, standing near central pole. 09:02:51. Child turns toward opposite doors. 09:03:12. Reflection obscured by other passengers. 09:04:03. Train nearing Terminal 5. 09:05:02. Doors open at Terminal 5 platform. She types and rewinds, types and rewinds. On the adjacent screen, the Terminal 5 platform camera shows the doors opening. Priya watches as passengers step onto the platform. There's Karen. There's Daniel. There's the trolley. She sits up straighter. Where is the child? She rewinds 3 seconds. Plays it again. In slow motion this time. The doors slide open. The first wave of passengers exits. Karen steps out. Daniel follows. There is enough space in the frame for a child at knee height to be visible between them. There is no one there. Priya bites her lip and checks the interior shuttle camera again. The footage stutters for half a second as the train stops. There's a brief flicker of digital noise across the screen, a mosaic of gray and green. Then, platform view. Then, Karen stepping out. Then, no Emily. She replays it for a third time. There is no moment, no clear frame, where Emily is seen leaving the carriage. And there is no frame in which she is visible, remaining on it as the doors close. The train leaves the platform at 9:06. By the time Priya calls Hale back, her voice has lost its earlier calm. "I've got her getting on at Terminal 3, she says. "I do not have her getting off at Terminal 5. Panic is not a sudden explosion. It's a slow tightening of the chest, a series of realizations stacking on top of each other until you can't breathe. At 9:23, Karen and Daniel are escorted by 2 security officers back down to the shuttle platforms. Some part of Karen still believes she'll see Emily standing there, embarrassed, scolded by staff for wandering. But the platform is almost empty. A new group of passengers waits idly for the train. No small girl with a pink backpack, no unicorn keychain, no familiar Constellation t-shirt. "Emily!" Karen's voice ricochets off the tiled walls, swallowed by the hum of the arriving train. They search the nearest restrooms. They peek into storage cupboards. They look behind vending machines and benches. Nothing. Around them, life continues. Passengers tapping their feet, checking their phones, dragging suitcases, oblivious to the fact that somewhere, in this maze of steel and glass, a 10-year-old girl has quietly vanished. At 9:27, airport police are formally notified. At 9:30, local police are called. At 9:31, a call is made to Emily's father. He's at home in Kent, making coffee, expecting a text telling him they're on their way to Terminal 5. Instead, his phone lights up with an unknown airport number. "Mr. Rhodes," the voice says, "this is Northgate Airport Police. Are you currently expecting your daughter, Emily, to travel to you today?" He thinks it's a routine check. Maybe something with the handover. Maybe they need ID. "Yes," he says. "Karen's bringing her over. They should be there any minute." "Why?" There's a pause. The kind that doesn't belong in routine calls. "Sir," the officer says slowly, "we're trying to locate your daughter. There's been a situation." Later, he will say that he knew from the tone. Before he knew any details. Before anyone said the words "missing," or last seen. Something cold settled in his stomach in that moment and never left. Every case we cover on this channel isn't just names and timestamps. It's hours of CCTV footage, statements, internal memos, security protocols, and the quiet, ugly gaps between what should happen and what actually did. It takes days, sometimes weeks, to reconstruct these timelines, to track who moved where, who saw what, and who should have noticed something. Emily's case is one of the strangest we've seen. Not because she disappeared. Tragically, children do go missing. But where she disappeared and how is what makes this story so deeply unsettling. Because by late morning, investigators would realize something terrifying about the path between Terminal 3 and Terminal 5. There is no single camera in an airport filled with them that can show what happened to Emily in those 4 minutes. Back at control, Priya and her colleagues widen the search. They pull every camera feed connected to Terminal 3 departure hall, corridor to shuttle, shuttle platform, T3, shuttle interior, shuttle platform, T5, stairwells and escalators leading from platform, main terminal 5 concourse, adjacent shops and corridors. They drag the timeline back to 8:30 and scrub through again and again, looking for the pink backpack. By 9:40, they've confirmed 08:52, Emily seen leaving Terminal 3. 08:59, Emily seen on shuttle platform, T3. 09:01, 09:05, Emily visible intermittently inside shuttle carriage. 09:05, doors open at T5, adults exit, no sign of Emily. 09:06, and shuttle departs, no clear shot of Emily remaining on board. They check the next platform further down. They check the CCTV from the tunnel, where the shuttle is stored between runs. They examine the arrival at Terminal 2, just in case a wrong door opened. Nothing. Could she have gotten off at the wrong stop? Someone asks. There is no wrong stop, Priya replies. It's a direct shuttle, Terminal 3 to Terminal 5. No intermediate platform. The room feels smaller suddenly. The screens brighter. The sound of clicking keys sharper. Check for blind spots, a supervisor orders. Camera outages, maintenance logs, anything. They pull a system status report for the morning. Almost all cameras were operational. Almost. One entry stands out. Cam T5 Plat NT02. Intermittent interference detected between 09:02 Balfedi 9 and 09:05 Automatic reset. Performed. No manual intervention recorded. The camera that should have captured the clearest shot inside the carriage at the moment the doors opened had glitched. No one in control had noticed at the time. They monitor hundreds of feeds simultaneously. A 3-second flicker is background noise, not a crisis. Now, it's everything. At 10:06, an officer in a fluorescent vest stands at the edge of the Terminal 5 shuttle platform, watching the train come and go. He imagines a child stepping out, getting turned around, pulled along by a crowd. It's easy to get disoriented here, the signage, the arrows, the constant announcements. But if that had happened, someone would have seen her. A member of staff, another passenger, a shop employee. Airports are anonymous, but they are not empty. People notice a child alone, especially one who looks lost. Officers canvass the area. Did you see a girl? About 10? Pink backpack, unicorn keychain? Most people shake their heads. A few think they might have seen her earlier. One shopkeeper thinks she remembers a girl matching the description near the sweet display. But when they check the timestamp, it's from an hour before Emily even arrived at the airport. A different child entirely. False leads begin piling up almost immediately. A woman insists she saw a man leading a crying girl toward the restrooms. A teenager claims he saw Emily near the baggage reclaim, talking to a stranger. Both turn out to involve different kids. The clock keeps ticking. 10:15, 10:27, 10:42. The longer a child is missing, the more each minute stretches into something unbearable. For Karen, time stops. The airport becomes a blur of fluorescent white, and the sound of her own voice repeating the same details to different uniforms. She's quiet, but she's not shy. She wouldn't just walk off. She knows to stay where she is. She knows. She knows. An officer asks, gently, "Has she ever run away before?" Karen looks at him like he's spoken another language. "She's 10, she says. She likes space documentaries and drawing foxes. She gets nervous, ordering for herself at McDonald's. She hasn't run away from anything in her life." At 11:03, Northgate police formally classify Emily's disappearance as a potential child abduction. It's mostly procedural. They have no evidence of a stranger, no reports of a struggle, no vehicle seen leaving a restricted area. But they also have something else. They don't have an accident. They don't have a fall. They don't have a miscommunication. They have a child who should be visible on dozens of cameras and isn't. An internal email goes out to all staff. Missing child in terminal. Possible abduction. Check restricted zones, service corridors, staff-only doors. Report any irregular activity between 8:45-10. They start locking things down. Rear exits, service lifts, loading bays. The public doesn't feel it yet. Flights still depart. Boarding announcements still play. The steady rhythm of an airport continues. But behind the scenes, something else has begun. A race against time, and an invisible clock ticking down from the moment a little girl stepped into a shuttle carriage and never stepped out. By noon, detectives from the Metropolitan Police Child Protection Unit are on site. They sit across from Karen and Daniel in a small interview room, lined with white walls and a water cooler humming softly in the corner. They switch on a recorder. "For the record," the detective says, "this interview is taking place at Northgate International Airport on August 17, 2013, at 12:07 p.m. Present are..." Karen's leg bounces uncontrollably under the table. Her hands are clenched together so tightly, the knuckles are white. "Can you tell us," the detective asks, "from the beginning, in your own words, exactly what happened this morning?" This is the moment where many cases change shape, where investigators begin to ask not only what happened to the missing person, but also what was happening around them in the hours and days before they vanished. Because if the cameras can't tell the story, they have to find someone who can. And sometimes, the most important answers aren't in the footage at all. They're buried in the lives that existed before the lens ever turned on. In Emily's case, those answers would lead investigators away from the bright glass of Terminal 5 and into something far messier: custody disputes, quiet resentments, and the subtle fault lines running through a family that thought it was just doing a routine handover at an airport. They thought they were navigating terminals. They had no idea they were already standing at the edge of a disappearance no one could explain. The interview room at Northgate feels too small for the weight inside it. The fluorescent light hums overhead, washing everything in a cold, flat glow. Karen sits forward in her chair, shoulders shaking. Daniel sits beside her, spine straight, jaw tight, doing that thing people do when they're trying not to break in front of strangers. The detective presses record. Okay, he says quietly. Let's go through this slowly. Karen nods, though nothing in her body suggests calm. We got to Terminal 3 at... She looks at Daniel. 8:14, he answers. We know the time, because the Heathrow Express timestamp popped up on the screen above the barrier. And Emily was with you the entire time? Yes, Karen says instantly. She was right with me. The detective glances down at his notes. Were there any moments she wandered, walked ahead, fell behind? Karen shakes her head. No, she's not a wanderer. She holds my sleeve when it's busy. Daniel adds, she walked ahead maybe once or twice, but only a foot or two. You can see it on the CCTV. The detective nods, writing something down. And on the shuttle? She was holding the pole, Karen says. She asked me if the train goes underground the whole way. She hates the dark. I told her it was only for a minute. Daniel leans in slightly. She was fine. A little excited, maybe. She likes trains. There's a long pause, the kind detectives use to see what fills it. Karen finally whispers, how does a child just vanish? On a train? The detective doesn't answer. Not because he doesn't want to, but because right now he doesn't know either. While the interview continues, investigators walk the shuttle route physically, step by step, as though the floor itself might give them an answer. A pair of officers stand on the Terminal 5 platform, staring at the point where the shuttle doors opened. One officer gestures to the floor. She should have been visible here, or here. He taps different spots. Even if she stepped to the side, we'd see a shoulder, a backpack, strap, something. The other officer frowns. Unless someone obstructed her. Obstructed her how? By standing in front of the camera. It's a chilling thought. Not dramatic, not violent, just deliberate. Someone tall enough, careful enough, standing in the exact place that blocks the lens. The first officer shakes his head. That's still not enough. We'd see her after. Cameras overlap. But as they walk the platform again, they notice something subtle. Something you only see when you're looking for it. A blind triangle. A shallow wedge between two cameras, where the sight lines don't quite meet. Just big enough for a grown adult and a small child. It's the first moment the officers realize the possibility that no parent wants to hear. Emily might not have wandered at all. Someone might have been standing exactly where the cameras couldn't see. Back in control, Priya replays the footage from inside the shuttle again, frame by frame, pixel by pixel. Then something catches her eye. Not Emily, someone else. A man standing at the opposite door. Dark jacket, back turned, shoulders stiff, head slightly angled downward, as though watching something below eye level. Priya zooms in, even though it destroys the image quality. She enhances contrast, noise, edges. The figure dissolves into blocks of gray and green. But she can still make out one detail. His arm is angled outward, resting on the metal doorframe. And beneath that arm, barely visible, between passengers' legs, something small, something pink. Priya freezes. Is it the backpack? Is it Emily? She rewinds. Plays it. Rewinds. Each time, the same blurry suggestion. A pink shape tucked close to the man's leg, but no full outline. No face. No clear confirmation. She zooms out again. At the moment the doors open, the man shifts just slightly, one half step to the right, and that half step is enough to block the camera completely. It's deliberate. It feels deliberate. Priya inhales sharply. She radios. Hale, I need you in control. Now. Security footage is many things, but it's rarely perfect. There are blind spots, glitches, odd angles, frames that overlap badly, moments lost to compression. But when multiple feeds begin showing the same pattern, investigators stop calling them coincidences. Hale arrives within minutes. Priya points at the freeze frame. Look, this is 4 seconds before the shuttle stops. Hale squints. Who is that? No ID yet. But watch. She hits play. The man shifts his weight forward. The doors slide open. Passengers exit. His body stays positioned exactly between the lens and the lower half of the carriage. Hale watches silently as the doors eventually close. No child behind him, Priya says. No child in front of him. And we don't see her leave on the next platform. So she's still inside? No, I checked. The carriage was empty after this. Fully empty. Hale stares at the screen. Then where? He murmurs. Did she go? Priya hesitates. I don't know, but that man, whoever he is, knows this gap. What gap? She switches to a diagram of camera angles at the platform. There, a wedge-shaped void, just big enough. Hale feels the room tilt slightly. This wasn't random, Priya says. Someone knew exactly where to stand. At 12:58, detectives return to Karen with a new question, one that shifts the tone of the entire interview. Did you notice anyone standing close to you on the shuttle? Karen frowns, confused. No. Why? Anyone who got on at the same time you did? I don't know. I wasn't looking. Anyone who seemed unusually close to Emily? Karen freezes. Close? What are you saying? We're not saying anything yet. The detective says softly. We're just checking. Karen's face goes pale. Daniel taps the table anxiously. Are you saying someone took her? We don't have evidence of that, the detective replies. But we do know she didn't simply walk off. The room falls silent. Even the air seems to stop moving. While all of this unfolds inside the airport, officers fan out across the surrounding perimeter. They interview taxi drivers, shuttle bus operators, car park attendants. Most saw nothing. A few saw a girl, but not this girl. One thought he saw a pink backpack, but it was a bag of sweets carried by a toddler. False hope becomes its own kind of cruelty. At 1:14 p.m., a staff member at a coffee kiosk reports something odd. A man came through about 9:20, she says. Dark jacket, hood up, no luggage, no ticket, just moving fast. Did he have a child with him? An officer asks. She hesitates. No, she says slowly. But that's the thing. He kept looking behind him, like he expected someone to be following. Can you describe him? I don't know. Average, pale, maybe 35 or 50? Hard to tell. He didn't look at me, just kept moving. Which direction did he go? She points. Down the service corridor. The officers exchange a look. The service corridor, a place the public should never enter. And yet, someone did. At the same time, Emily Rhodes vanished. The service corridor is one of those places passengers never think about. It smells faintly of disinfectant and machine oil. The lighting buzzes. It's where staff push carts, where maintenance crews store equipment, where thousands of doors lead to thousands of places you're not supposed to see. When Hale and a pair of officers reach it, the first thing they notice is how easy it would be for someone to disappear here. Not by magic, not by force, but by architecture. 3 branching hallways, 4 locked doors, 2 unmonitored turns, and 1 freight lift big enough for a delivery truck. Hale sweeps his flashlight along the floor. Where's the camera coverage? Minimal, one officer says. 2 cameras in the corridor itself, then a blind zone until the next intersection. Why so few? It's not a public area. Lower priority. Hale exhales slowly. The blind spots aren't accidents. They're design flaws, hidden in plain sight. Another officer points at a set of scuff marks near the wall. Fresh, someone hit this with luggage or a cart. Or kicked it, Hale says. They reach the freight lift. It sits slightly open, a 3-inch crack in the heavy metal doors. One officer presses the button. Nothing. He presses again. Still nothing. Hale steps closer, peering into the slit. Darkness. Just as he's about to speak, a faint noise echoes through the shaft. Metal settling, cables shifting. Or something else. They radio maintenance. Within minutes, 2 engineers arrive and pry the doors wider with a hydraulic spreader. The lift is empty, but the floor is wet. A thin trail of moisture streaks from the back wall toward the door, then stops abruptly, as though someone wiped it, or carried something dripping, or someone crying. Hale rubs his forehead. Get me access logs. I want to know who used this lift between Étarchy and Tenigues. The engineer swallows hard. Sir, this lift hasn't been logged in for 3 days. How is that possible? It's been offline, out of order. No one should have been using it at all. Meanwhile, back in the interview room, Karen's breakdown has reached a point investigators dread. The moment a mother starts blaming herself. I should have held her hand, she whispers. I should have made her sit beside me. I should have. The detective places a tissue box in front of her. Mrs. Rhodes, you didn't do anything wrong. Karen shakes her head hard, tears falling. You don't understand. She was nervous this morning. She asked me if the airport would be crowded. I told her it would be fun. I told her she'd like the trains. Daniel's voice cracks. This is not your fault. Karen grips the edge of the table, knuckles white. Please find her, she whispers. Just find her. The detective nods softly. We will. He hopes he means it. At 1:43 p.m., the first real lead breaks open, but it doesn't come from CCTV. It comes from a woman who didn't think her memory mattered. A cleaner in Terminal 5. Mid-50s. Quiet. The kind of person people walk past without noticing. She approaches an officer timidly. Excuse me, are you looking for a little girl? Yes, he says gently. Did you see something? The woman hesitates, anxiety pushing at her voice. I didn't see her, but I heard something. A man. He was on his phone, near the staff hallway. He said something strange. What did he say? She wrings her hands. He said, I've got her! The officer freezes. Are you certain? Yes, he said it twice. I've got her. She's fine. The hallway behind her grows impossibly quiet. What did he look like? I didn't see his face, she admits. He had a hood up. He was walking quickly toward the service lift. What time was this? She thinks hard. Right after 9. Between 9:15 and 9:20, maybe. The officer feels his pulse tighten. That's exactly when the man in the dark jacket stepped off the shuttle. Exactly when Emily vanished. Exactly when the freight lift, supposedly out of service, was accessed. Hale plays the recording again. An officer's body cam footage. The cleaner's voice, thin and shaking. I've got her, she's fine. 2 sentences, 5 words, the most important words of the investigation so far. Hale leans back in his chair, rubbing his jaw. This isn't an opportunistic snatch, he says finally. Priya's eyes widen. Then what is it? A planned extraction. Someone who knew the layout. Someone who knew the blind zones. Someone who moves like he's done this before. Priya swallows. What exactly are we dealing with here? Hale looks back at the footage. The grainy man, the angle of his body, the way he shields the aisle with one shoulder. We're dealing with someone who came for her, he says. At 2:06 p.m., another urgent discovery lands on Hale's desk. A printout, time-coded, highlighted. Red circles around 3 specific entries. Freight lift 12. Manual override 09. 1842 09. 19 Nazo 3. 9 Ma 1948. Hale stares. This lift was offline, he says. How does someone override it? The technician answers quietly. They'd need a master key. Who has those? Only senior maintenance and contractors, and anyone with a copied key card. A copied card? Or a stolen one? Something cold settles in Hale's chest. Because that means 2 things. Whoever took Emily knew exactly what they were doing. And they had help. At 2:14, officers sweep the lower level, an industrial maze beneath the terminals, where baggage belts, pipes, and concrete pillars form a world passengers never see. It's loud, it's endless. It's full of places a child could be hidden without anyone noticing for hours. One officer stops suddenly. Wait! He crouches. There, near a drainage grate, something small lies half buried in dust. Pink. Fabric. Familiar. He picks it up with gloved hands. A ribbon. A pink hair ribbon. Still tied. Still looped. Still in the same neat bow. Karen tied every morning before school. The officer radios Hale immediately. We found something. Hale's reply is instant. What is it? A child's hair ribbon. Hale swallows. Is it hers? The officer looks at the delicate bow in his palm. It matches perfectly. But the most chilling detail isn't the ribbon. It's where it is. 3 feet from the lift shaft, 2 feet from a set of heavy security doors, and directly beside a fresh scuff mark, made by a small shoe. The ribbon sits on the table between Hale and Priya, like a wound they're both afraid to touch. It's sealed in an evidence bag, but the sight of it is enough to make Priya look away. Her mother confirmed it, Hale says quietly. Emily wore this today. Priya wraps her arms around herself. She didn't drop it. Someone pulled it out. Ribbons don't fall out of tight braids. Hale nods. No, they don't. He looks around the room, taking in the maps, the grainy CCTV stills, the timeline scribbled across the whiteboard. The picture is forming, but it's forming into something far more deliberate than any of them want to believe. A child lost is one thing. A child taken is something else entirely. A knock on the door cuts through the tension. An officer steps in, holding a tablet. Sir, we've isolated the cleaner's corridor footage. Hale stands. Show me. The screen lights up. A dark hallway. A vending machine hums. 2 catering carts sit abandoned near a wall. At 09:16:08, a figure appears, hood up, face angled away. Dark jacket, hands in pockets. The man. The same man from the shuttle. He walks down the hallway with purpose, not hurried, not frantic, but certain. A person who knows exactly where he's going. At 09:16:19, he pauses, turns his head slightly, as if listening. Then he steps sideways, out of frame. 3 seconds later, something small enters the edge of the shot. A shadow, low to the ground, moving with tiny, hesitant steps. Priya inhales sharply. Is that... Hale nods slowly. Play it! The footage continues. The small shadow moves closer, but never fully emerges. As it reaches the edge of visibility, the man reappears, blocking it entirely. He bends down slightly. A gesture that could be gentle, or controlling, or both. Then, something chilling. He lifts his arm. Not high, just enough to wrap around something we can't see. The shadow disappears. He straightens, adjusting the arm of his jacket as though hiding something beneath it. Then he moves away, walking toward the service lift. Priya covers her mouth with both hands. "He's carrying her," she whispers. "He's carrying her." The officer's voice is faint. We don't see her face, but the size, the movement, the timing. "It's her," Hale says. "It has to be her." Down in the service level, the team expands the search zone. The freight lift leads to a stretch of hallway almost no one outside staff ever sees. Pipes rattle overhead. The air tastes like dust and machine grease. Two officers push open a set of double doors. Inside is a passage lined with old equipment bins and storage cages. "What is this area?" one officer asks. "Overflow storage, mostly unused." "Locked?" "Supposed to be. But several locks are broken, others are hanging loose. One cage door sits slightly ajar. An officer shines his flashlight inside. Tangled wires, battered suitcases, old Christmas decorations and dented boxes. Then something catches the beam. Footprints, small ones. The floor is dusty, untouched, but near the cage's opening the dust thins, smeared by tiny shoes with narrow soles. Children's shoes. The officer kneels. "These prints are fresh." "How fresh?" "Within hours." Another officer calls out, "Over here!" They rush to him. He's standing in front of a narrow opening behind a stack of wooden pallets, a gap that shouldn't exist, a crack in the wall where two sections of concrete don't quite meet, just wide enough for someone to slip through. A cold current of air moves through it, carrying the smell of damp metal. "Where does this go?" an officer asks. The building engineer looks uneasy. "It's an access crawl space. Not used anymore. It runs beneath 3 terminals." "How far?" "Long. Very long." "And how many exit points?" The engineer hesitates. "Dozens." Hale closes his eyes for half a second. Someone chose this place. Someone planned for it. Someone knew the airport's bones. He turns to the officers. "Gear up. We're going in." Back upstairs, Karen sits in a small family support room, a blanket over her shoulders. She hasn't blinked in too long. Her hands tremble nonstop. A counselor sits beside her. "Karen," she says gently, "is there anyone you want us to call? Family? Friends?" Karen shakes her head slowly. "I just want her," she whispers. "Just bring her back." Daniel paces the room, restless with a kind of helpless fury. "This airport is a fortress," he snaps. "How does a man wander through tunnels with a child and no one stops him?" The counselor doesn't answer. She can't, because deep down she has the same question. In the crawl space, flashlights cut through the darkness. The air is damp, low, claustrophobic. Pipes run along the walls. Condensation drips from overhead. It smells like coal dust and old metal. Officers move slowly, stepping over wires and rusted couplings. At 60 meters in, they find the first sign, a shoe print. Small, pointing forward, perfectly preserved in fine grit. A few steps later, another and another. "She was here," an officer whispers. But then the prints veer right, toward a junction where 3 tunnels branch out like arteries. Left, toward the long haul baggage belts. Right, toward mechanical control rooms. Straight, deeper underground. And beside the right-hand entrance, a smear on the wall, a faint pink streak. The officer touches it with gloved fingers. Fabric fiber, pink. Ribbon pink. They radio Hale. "Sir, we're on her path." Hale exhales, tension flickering through his voice. "Keep going." But 20 meters deeper, something changes. The footprints stop. All of them. They simply end. As if someone lifted her off the ground, as if she was carried from that point forward. And on the dusty floor, near the last print, a new footprint appears. A man's boot, deep, heavy, facing the direction she vanished. Then another, and another. The stride is long, confident, unhurried. The man isn't running, he's walking, carrying her deeper into a place built to swallow sound. A place no passenger knows exists. A place where a child can vanish forever. The deeper they go, the more the air changes. It grows cooler, thicker, almost stale. Every footstep echoes in a dull, muted thump, as though the walls themselves are swallowing sound. Pipes hum softly overhead, carrying water or air, or something else entirely. No one is quite sure what this corridor was originally built for, or why it extends so far beyond any modern blueprint. At the 110-meter mark, the officers slow. The tunnel narrows here, then widens again, then bends slightly to the left, forming a gentle curve that hides whatever lies ahead. The boot prints continue, always the same size, always the same distance apart, never hurried, and always alone. Whoever carried Emily never set her down again. One officer whispers, "He knows this place." "Or he's been down here before," another replies. They keep moving. On the surface, Hale stands in front of a terminal map that suddenly feels useless. He stares at a highlighted blueprint of the service ducts, mechanical zones, and crawl spaces. "These tunnels," Hale says slowly, "why were they built?" The engineer shifts uncomfortably. Some date back to the early expansions. One or two go back to the 70s. They linked older terminals, maintenance shafts, generator rooms. Were they all documented? In theory. In theory, Hale repeats, which means some aren't. The engineer hesitates. There were stories about sections that didn't get completed, or that were sealed off when the new terminal opened. Some were abandoned mid-construction. Why? Costs, safety, access issues. Or, Hale says, because someone decided they shouldn't be found. The engineer has no reply for that. Back underground, the officers reach the bend. The tunnel widens into a chamber, not big, but echoing with a faint metallic hum that vibrates through the concrete. In the center sits a metal door, industrial, thick, bolted into concrete. Not a regular service door, not a modern one either. Its paint is peeling, its hinges rusted, its lock mechanism old-fashioned and oversized, and stamped faintly across the top. Utility access. Sub-level 3. Restricted. No one on the team has ever heard of a sub-level 3. "Is this on the blueprint?" an officer whispers into his radio. Hale's reply comes after a pause. "No, we don't have any records of a sub-level 3. One of the officers kneels near the door. On the dust-covered floor is a faint pattern. Not footprints this time. Drag marks, long ones, as if something or someone was pulled through. He swallows. "Sir, the drag starts here." "Emily?" Hale asks. "No. Bigger. Much bigger." "What kind of drag is it?" The officer lowers his light again. "It looks like a bag." He hesitates. "A heavy bag." A cold wind moves through the chamber. Impossible underground, but unmistakable. It's enough to raise goosebumps across every arm in the search team. Another officer studies the hinges. "This door's been opened recently." "How can you tell?" his partner asks. "The rust. When you move an old hinge, you get flaking. Fresh breaks. Look." He runs his gloved finger along the hinge. The rust flakes away easily, recently disturbed, recently used. "Try the handle," someone whispers. The officer grips it. It doesn't turn, not even a centimeter. "It's locked," he says. "From which side?" his partner asks. The officer stares at the mechanism. "Inside." A heavy silence settles over the team. Someone is inside, or something was inside recently, and they locked the door from within. Upstairs, Priya digs deeper into access logs, scrolling through decades of archived entries. She doesn't know what she's looking for until she finds it. 3 old badge IDs, all belonging to maintenance workers, all logged as deactivated, all tied to a section labeled Sub 3 Legacy. She frowns. Legacy. A word that means nobody has touched the file in years, or they don't want anyone touching it now. She clicks one. Access. Permitted. Wait, to access. Permitted. Wait, 17. Access. Permitted. Access. Permitted. Access. Permitted. 1346. Her breath catches. The last time Sublevel 3 was accessed was hours after Emily vanished. Someone went back. Someone who still has a working card, or someone who has a card that shouldn't work anymore. Priya races to Hale. "You need to hear this," she says breathlessly. "When was the card last used?" Hale asks. She hesitates. "Today." Hale goes still. Someone's down there with them. Back in the crawlspace chamber, the officers prepare to breach. "On my signal," the lead whispers. He positions the hydraulic wedge under the doorframe, secures the brace, signals the team to step back. The machine whines softly. The door creaks. Metal strains against metal. Then, a sound from the other side. Not loud, not sharp. A click. A soft, deliberate click. Like someone unlocking something. The officers freeze. "Did you hear that?" one whispers. Then a second sound. Movement. Slow. Steady. Coming closer. Something brushes against the door. A shift of weight. A faint scrape along metal. One officer tightens his grip on his weapon. Another raises his flashlight. The lead officer radios Hale. "Sir, something is behind the door." "Something or someone?" the officer breathes out. "I can't tell." The tunnel is silent for a beat. Then, from behind the door, a voice. Soft. Thin. Barely there. A child's voice. "Hello?" The officers stare at one another, hearts hammering. Another whisper through the metal. "Is someone there?" It's Emily's voice. Exactly her pitch. Exactly her softness. Exactly her age. The lead officer leans toward the door. "Emily! Emily, it's okay. We're here to help you." There's a pause. Then the child's voice again. "I can't see. It's dark." "We're coming," the officer promises. "We're coming to open the door." There's a longer pause now. Then a new sentence. A strange one. A sentence that makes the hair on every neck stand up. "He said you would come." Every officer goes rigid. The lead officer swallows hard. "Who said that, Emily?" Another pause. Then, "The man." The flashlight beams tremble. "Emily," the officer says carefully, "is he with you right now?" The answer comes in a whisper so faint they almost don't hear it. "Yes." Then, a second voice. Deep. Close. Almost touching the door. "Go ahead," it says calmly. "Open it." Every sound in the tunnel stills. Nobody breathes. Nobody speaks. The officers stare at the metal door as if it might breathe too. Because the voice on the other side wasn't frightened. It wasn't pleading. It was composed, measured, waiting. The lead officer signals everyone back silently. Weapons raise. Flashlights tighten to controlled beams. The hydraulic wedge whines quietly under pressure, but they cut the power instantly. Anything loud now feels suicidal. The officer whispers into his radio, "Hale, we have contact." Hale's response comes fast. "Is the child alive?" "We heard her." "Is she in distress?" "We don't know." "Is the suspect with her?" The officer looks at the motionless gray door. "Yes," he whispers. "He spoke." "What did he say?" Another pause. "He told us to open the door." Silence on the line. Then do not open anything until I get there. In the room above, Priya is still parsing the sub-level 3 access, logs when Hale storms in, urgency radiating from him. What else do you have? He asks. I cross-referenced the deactivated cards, she says. All belonged to contractors hired during the Terminal 4 expansion. Most worked deep infrastructure. Most? One didn't. She brings up the final name. Keaton Harrow Maintenance. Access OPS card. Status. Deactivated. 2009. Security level. Red Hale frowns. I don't know him. You wouldn't, Priya says. He never worked main terminals. His clearance was limited to restricted mechanical sublevels, inspection shafts, and... She hesitates. Her finger taps the line. Sublevel 3. And the card still works? It shouldn't, but his access attempts went through today. Meaning someone reactivated it. Priya nods. Or someone is using a cloned version. Hale stares at the photo on the screen. A blurry staff ID shot. A man with pale eyes and an expression that isn't quite a smile, isn't quite neutral. Get me everything on him, Hale says. Employment file, disciplinary records, address history, any complaints filed, anything. Priya hesitates before she says, There's almost nothing on him. What do you mean, almost nothing? I mean his file is 82% redacted. Hale stares at her. What kind of maintenance worker gets redacted? She answers softly, Someone who wasn't just maintenance. Down in the tunnel, the officers keep their weapons trained on the door. That voice still lingers in the concrete. Too calm, too still, too prepared. The child's last words echo softer. He said you would come. One officer whispers, What if that wasn't her? The lead shoots him a hard look. It was her. How do you know? Because that's how children sound when they're hoping. The officer lowers his eyes. He's right. It did sound like hope, just twisted through something darker. Suddenly, a metallic thud on the other side, heavy, abrupt, close enough to vibrate the hinges. Another officer steps forward instinctively. Emily? He calls gently through the metal. Emily, are you hurt? No answer. But then, a slow scrape, something dragging across the floor, approaching the door. The lead officer raises his voice. If you harm her... The man's voice interrupts, soft but echoing perfectly between the steel and concrete. She's unharmed. Prove it, the officer snaps. A long pause, then a tiny sound, a sniff, a trembling breath, a child's breath. Emily, sweetheart, the officer says softly. Can you talk to me? Silence. Then, he's holding my hand. Every stomach drops. Emily, the officer says, are you scared? Another pause, a strained whisper through tears. No. The officer closes his eyes for a second. That no is a lie. A child trying to say what she thinks she's supposed to. He steadies himself. Emily, he says gently, is there anyone else in the room with you? A longer pause. Then, just him. Another officer whispers, This is a hostage. No, the lead officer whispers back. This is something else. From the other side, the man speaks again. Officer, you're wasting precious time. What do you want? The lead asks. I want you to open the door. In exchange for what? A quiet chuckle. For seeing her. No one reacts well to that. You're not in control here, the officer warns. A soft exhale comes through, like he's amused. Then why haven't you opened it? The door remains still. The air remains heavy. Who are you? The officer asks. Another silence, then a calm reply. I've always been here. The words ripple through the team like a cold wind. The officer tries a new tactic. What's your name? No response. Why did you take her? Still nothing. Is she injured? No reply. Finally, the man says, "You've come far enough. It's time." Time for what? To open the door. Upstairs, Hale crashes into the service stairwell with 2 tactical officers behind him. Priya's voice crackles through his radio. "Hale, listen to me. Keaton Harrow was removed from his position in 2009. Why? He failed a psychological evaluation. Details? All redacted. What else?" She hesitates. "He filed 6 incident reports about unmonitored sublevels and people moving where they shouldn't be. All dismissed." "He thought people were following him?" "No," Priya says quietly. "He claimed someone was already down there." Hale's pace quickens. "And the department ignored him?" "It gets worse," Priya says. "What now?" She exhales. "He disappeared in 2010. "Disappeared?" "Walked off shift. Never came back. No forwarding address. No sightings." "How old was he?" 41. "Any family?" "None listed." Hale stops at the landing. "So what did the report conclude? Suicide? Foul play?" Priya's voice falters. "Neither." "Then what?" "The official conclusion was," she swallows, "employee voluntarily relocated. Case closed." "Relocated to where?" Priya doesn't answer, because nobody knows. In the tunnel, the hydraulic wedge whines again as the officers prepare another attempt. The metal groans, the hinges strain, a few flakes fall, then a tiny gasp. Emily again. "It's loud," she whispers fearfully. "We're trying to get you out," the officer says. "Move away from the door, sweetheart." The man's voice cuts in sharply. "No, she stays where she is." The officers freeze. "Move her away from the door," the lead commands. "No," the man says calmly. "She stays touching it." The officers stare at each other. Touching it? Why? The lead officer shouts, "What are you doing?" The man answers with chilling simplicity, "Preparing her." "For what?" Silence. Then Emily says something so faint they almost miss it. He says it won't hurt long. Every muscle in every officer's body goes rigid. "Emily," the officer calls, voice cracking, "step away from the door." A small sob. "I can't." "Why not?" A broken whisper. "He's holding me." Before anyone can react, the door reverberates with a deep, heavy boom from the inside. Not a kick, not a hit, a strike. Deliberate, controlled. The officer shouts, "Emily!" Another boom. Then, the man's voice, lower now, closer than ever. "Last chance, open it." The officer breathes hard. "You open it," he says. A long, chilling pause. Then the man replies, "I can't." "Why not?" The reply comes in a whisper that turns every vein cold. "It only opens from your side." The tunnel goes silent. Then, a new sound. Something metallic sliding softly into place. A lock? A latch? A mechanism being set? The man's voice. "When you open this door, everything changes." The lead officer steadies his breathing. "Emily," he whispers, "we're coming for you." But the voice that answers through the steel isn't her voice anymore. "Hurry!" The sound in the tunnel shifts. It's subtle at first, an almost inaudible hum, rising behind the heavy steel door, like machinery flickering awake after years of sleep, like something warming, preparing. The officers instinctively step back, weapons raised. "What is that?" someone whispers. No one answers, because the sound doesn't belong in a maintenance tunnel. It doesn't belong anywhere people are supposed to be. The hum deepens, vibrating through the concrete. Dust trickles from the ceiling. Pipes tremble. The lead officer hits his radio. "Hale, we need you down here now." "Hale, I'm 2 minutes out." "Move faster." Inside the chamber, the hum stops abruptly. Silence collapses over them like a weight. Then, a slow scrape against metal. Something shifting on the other side of the door. Emily speaks first, her voice thin, weak, trembling. "It's getting hot." One of the officers flinches. "Emily, what's hot?" "The floor." A beat passes. Then the man speaks. "It doesn't last long. Don't frighten her." The officer snaps. "Step away from her!" Another soft chuckle. "You think I'm near her?" The officers exchange horrified glances. He was holding her a moment ago. "What did you do?" the lead officer demands. A pause. Then, "She's standing exactly where I need her to." "Why?" "So the door recognizes her." The officers go still. "What does that mean?" one whispers. The man answers calmly. "This door doesn't open for just anyone." Up above, Priya scrolls through more restricted files. She isn't supposed to see these, no one is, but the urgency overrides. Protocol. She finds a fragment of a technical report from 1987. Sublevel 3, Automated Lock System Biometric Failsafe. Infrared pedal trigger height requirement, 80 to 130 cm. Her heart stops. That's child height. She scrolls further until she finds a handwritten note in the margin. Only opens if the subject is in position. Subject, not operator. Subject. She whispers, "Oh God." She grabs the radio. "Hale, Hale, answer me." He's running. Sweat on his forehead. Boots slamming concrete stairs. "I'm here." "You cannot, under any circumstances, open that door." "What? Why?" "It's not a room. It's not a closet. It's an entrance to a legacy system. There's something behind that door designed to activate when a small human stands on the threshold." "Activate what?" "I don't know. But it requires a child," she says, her voice shaking. "That's why she's standing there." Hale stops cold on the stairwell landing. "Are you telling me this man is using Emily to unlock something?" "Yes." "What is behind that door, Priya?" The line crackles. Her breath trembles. "I don't think anyone ever wanted to find out." In the tunnel, the hum begins again, louder this time. The officers brace themselves. "Emily!" the lead officer shouts. "Move away from the door!" She cries out, "I can't! He said don't move! Please, please help me!" One officer steps toward the door, reaching instinctively for the handle. The lead officer grabs his arm. "No, not yet." The younger officer snaps, "She's terrified." "And if we open this wrong, she dies," the lead says quietly. "Use your head." The hum intensifies. A red glow washes under the bottom of the door. Faint, growing brighter. The man's voice floats out calmly, almost soothing. "Don't be afraid, Emily. It's only the system waking up." "What system?" the officer demands. The man ignores him. "You're doing perfectly," he tells her. "Just a little longer." Emily sobs. "It hurts." The lead officer feels something inside him crack. "Emily," he calls, "listen to me. You must step backward. Even one step." The man interrupts. "She won't." "Why?" "Because she understands more than you think." Emily whispers, "He said if I move, it starts over." The officers look horrified. "Starts over?" one mutters. "Starts what over?" Hale arrives breathless at the chamber entrance. He stops at the sight. The massive steel door, the red glow, the officers trembling in place. "What's happening?" The lead officer answers without looking away. "He's making her trigger something." "Trigger what?" "We don't know." The hum climbs again. Pipes rattle overhead. And something else. A clicking rhythm begins inside the door. Slow at first, then faster, like gears aligning. Priya comes through on the radio, voice cracking. "Hale, stop! Them!" Sublevel 3 was shut down because the early systems malfunctioned. It wasn't structurally sound. There were collapses, flooding, gas leaks. They sealed it for a reason. Hale shouts to the team, "Do not open that door." The younger officer screams, "Then what do we do? She's in there." A new sound cuts him off. A soft chime from the door. Electronic, precise. The man's voice, "There it is." The glow intensifies to bright red. Emily screams, "It's too hot." Hale steps forward. "Let her go," he demands. The man replies, "I don't have her." They freeze. "What do you mean you don't have her? You're right there." Another pause, then chillingly calm. "Officer, I've never been in the room with her." Every flashlight trembles. "What?" "I'm not behind the door. She is." The officers stare at one another in confusion and horror. Hale shouts, "Then where are you?" Silence. Then the voice comes again. From behind them. From the darkness of the tunnel. From the shadows beyond their lights. "Right here." All officers spin, weapons raised. Their beams sweep through the darkness and land on a man standing just meters away. Dark coat, hood down, face blank, hands loose at his sides. No child, no struggle, no hurry. He's just watching them, as though he's been there the entire time. He tilts his head slightly. "You're too late," he says softly. Behind them. The door clicks, once, twice, thrice. Then it begins to open. The steel door cracks open with a low, grinding moan that vibrates through the officer's teeth. Dust shakes loose from the ceiling. A wave of heat rolls out, thick, metallic, almost chemical. Emily screams again from inside. "It burns!" The officers whip back toward the door, but none of them dare touch it. Hale forces himself to breathe, eyes flicking between the glowing opening and the man standing silently in the tunnel behind them. He isn't running. He isn't fighting. He isn't hiding. He's just watching, like this is unfolding exactly as he expected. "Hands where I can see them," the lead officer shouts. The man lifts them slowly, calmly. "You're focused on the wrong door," he says. Hale's heart sinks. "What did you do to her?" A faint smile touches the corners of the man's mouth. "Officer, I've done nothing." The heat intensifies. A harsh red light pulses from within the room, now visible through the widening door crack. Emily cries out again, "Please, please get me out." The lead officer moves toward the door, teeth clenched, muscles tensed. And the man behind them says, almost gently, "If you touch that door before it completes the cycle, she dies." Every officer freezes mid-step. Hale turns sharply. "What cycle?" The man doesn't answer. A heavy clunk sounds from inside the room. Some mechanism locking into place. Another sequence of clicks follows. Faster now. In rhythmic bursts. Priya's voice explodes over the radio, breathless, panicked. "Hale, listen to me. Sub-level 3 was experimental. It's not a storage room. It's a power management node. It was never safe for human entry." "What kind of power node?" Hale demands. There's a frantic rustling of papers on her end. Early biometric autonomous systems. Infrared mapping, thermal activation, pressure triggers. I can't tell exactly which one. It wasn't finished. They sealed it before testing. Hale's blood runs cold. "So, what happens if a child stands inside?" "I don't know." The man's voice cuts through the chaos. "She's not supposed to be inside the node," he says quietly. "She's supposed to be at the threshold." Hale steps toward him. "You're going to explain this right now." But the man just shakes his head slowly, almost pityingly. "You wouldn't understand it. Try me." The man looks past him to the opening door. "You still think this is about kidnapping?" His eyes soften with something strange. Not empathy, not sorrow, recognition. This is about correction. Hale feels dread coil inside his gut. Correction of what? The man lowers his hands. You built this place wrong. The door grinds wider. Heat blasts out like the breath of a furnace. Red light sweeps across the chamber. Emily's silhouette becomes visible through the widening crack, small, shaking, hands pressed to her ears, standing alone on the glowing metal floor. "Emily!" Hale shouts. "Move! Step back!" She tries, but the moment her foot lifts, a deafening alarm blares inside the room. She cries out, stumbling back onto the exact same spot. The man watches with eerie calm. She can't leave that position until it stabilizes, he says. What happens when it stabilizes? Hale snaps. The man smiles faintly. Depends on how brave she is. The officers exchange horrified glances. What kind of system is this? The lead officer demands. But the man simply says, it's older than the airport. Inside the room, another mechanical sequence begins. Panels shift. Lights pulse. A ring of vents around the perimeter exhales a gust of heated air. Emily screams again, this time wordless, raw. The younger officer can't take it anymore. He lunges toward the door. We're going in now, but the man shouts sharply. If you cross that threshold before it completes, the whole chamber will seal, and you will never see her again. The officer freezes mid-stride. Hale steps toward the man again, voice low and lethal. What is this place? What is happening to her? Finally, the man answers him. They were trying to build a self-sustaining power network beneath the terminals. Something efficient, something automatic, something that didn't rely on staff oversight. He nods toward the glowing chamber. That room is a trigger point. For what? For the system's initialization. Hale's voice cracks. And why does it need a child? The man's smile fades. It doesn't need a child, he says softly. It just needs someone small enough to stand where adults cannot. Hale freezes. You mean height? Yes? Not age? No. Hale feels sick. And what happens when the system initializes? The man looks back toward the door with a faraway sadness, as though watching an old memory repeat itself. It resets, he says. What resets? The grid beneath the terminals. Hale steps closer, gripping the man's coat. Define resets. The man meets his eyes. Everything below this level. The officers stiffen. Are you saying that room is about to... Yes. Wipe out the sublevel? Yes. Hale spins toward the opening door. That will kill her! The man shakes his head. Not if you wait. How long? He listens to the rhythmic clicking inside. A minute. Maybe 2. Emily sobs again. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. Please. Hale's voice shakes. What happens to a child during reset? The man looks at the ground, then whispers. They scream for a while. That's it. Hale draws his weapon. You're done talking. The man doesn't flinch. You can shoot me, he says softly. It won't change what's happening behind that door. The lead officer shouts, the door's almost fully open. The red glow erupts outward, flooding the chamber. The hum becomes a roar. Emily's outline flickers in the blinding light. The man's voice, barely audible now. She'll either make it or she won't. Hale lunges toward the door, and the chamber detonates with white-hot light. The blast of white light floods the tunnel, swallowing everything. Heat, sound, breath. Officers shield their faces instinctively. Dust erupts from the walls. Pipes groan under the sudden surge of power. For a moment, no one sees anything. Just white, just heat, just the unmistakable sound of a system older than the terminal, waking for the first time in decades. Then, Silence. Not the calm kind. Not the peaceful kind. The heavy, suffocating silence left behind when something has finished. Whatever it was meant to do. Hale blinks through the haze. "Emily!" he shouts. "Emily!" As the white glow fades, shapes begin to appear. The metal floor, the open doorway, dust swirling like smoke. And in the center of the chamber, a small figure. Hale stumbles forward before the others can stop him. "Emily! Emily!" She's on her knees, face streaked with tears, hair matted, hands trembling uncontrollably. Tiny gasps break through her sobs, her voice hoarse. "It hurt," she whispers. "It hurt." Hale drops to his knees beside her. "You're okay," he says, pulling her gently into his arms. "You're okay. We've got you. We've got you." She clings to him, with both hands, gripping the fabric of his vest like she's afraid the world might collapse again. Officers rush in, surrounding them, forming a protective barrier. One checks her pupils. Another checks her pulse. Another wraps a thermal blanket around her shaking shoulders. A medic whispers, "She's alive. She's responsive." Hale closes his eyes in relief. "Let's get her out of here." But behind him, footsteps echo. The man, the one who'd been watching. Except he's walking away. Calmly, slowly. Heading back into the dark tunnel as though his job here is done. "Stop!" the lead officer shouts. "Don't move!" Weapons raise. The man does not turn around. He simply lifts one hand in a strange, almost polite gesture. "You won't hit me," he says softly. The lead officer's jaw tightens. "Try me." The man pauses. "Be careful which corridors you open," he says. And then he steps into the darkness. One step, two, three. The flashlights swing wildly, beams cutting through dust and shadow. He's gone. Just gone. No side door, no vent, no hatch. Just a shadow that swallowed him whole. They try to pursue him. Officers sweep the corridor, branching left and right, shouting commands, scanning every corner. But the tunnel stretches endlessly. A maze of intersections and forgotten passageways never meant for public eyes. By the time they regroup, one conclusion becomes unavoidable. He knew these tunnels better than anyone alive, and he intended to disappear. Emily is carried out of Sublevel 3 in Hale's arms. Her small voice trembles. Is he coming back? Hale keeps his tone steady. "No, you're safe now." But Emily's eyes stay fixed on the tunnel behind them. "He said you'd try to find him." Hale hesitates. "What else did he say?" Emily wipes her eyes with a shaking hand. "He said he doesn't live there." She points down the dark corridor. "He said that's just where he waits." Hale swallows hard. "Waits for what?" Emily's lip quivers. "For the next one." Hours later, the airport is sealed. Terminals evacuated, hundreds of staff questioned, mechanical rooms searched. Engineers try to understand how the old system activated at all. The logs show nothing. No code entered. No badge scanned. No operator registered. As if the chamber woke itself. As if it was designed to. Emily is taken to a hospital. Minor burns, dehydration, shock, but alive. Traumatized, but alive. Doctors ask her gently what she felt when the room reset. She pauses a long time before answering. "It felt like it wanted me," she whispers. They ask her what she means. She looks away. I think the man knew that. Later that night, after 12 straight hours underground, Hale walks out into the cool air outside the airport. Blue lights flash. Reporters gather behind barriers. Helicopters thunder overhead. He leans against a service truck, exhausted. Priya approaches him, face pale, clipboard in hand. "We found something," she says quietly. Hale straightens. What now? She hands him a printout. It's a grainy photo, a security frame from 1998. Terminal construction phase, workers carrying tools, engineers in reflective vests, and in the background, half hidden behind scaffolding, a man in a dark coat standing perfectly still. Hale squints. It's him. Same build, same coat, same posture. Priya flips to the next page. A frame from 2004. Different angle, different hall, same man, and another, across different decades, always near sublevels, always in shadows, never aging. Hale feels his stomach twist. This isn't possible. Priya's voice cracks. Hale! He's been in the tunnels longer than this airport has existed. They stare at the final photo. Year, 1983. Northgate expansion site. Foundation phase. Workers pour concrete around steel beams. And there, standing beside the unfinished corridor, the same man. Hands in pockets, watching, waiting. Exactly the same age. Priya whispers, I don't think he's a contractor. Hale looks back at the massive building rising behind them. I don't think he's anything we understand. Emily recovers. Slowly. She regains her strength, her voice, her laughter, but not all of her memories. Some things she refuses to talk about. Some things she cannot talk about. The chamber is sealed permanently. Sublevel 3 is welded shut. The tunnels are mapped, blocked, bricked over. But Hale knows the truth. You can seal a door. You can block a tunnel. You can weld steel. But you cannot stop something. That was never behind a door to begin with. The final scene. A camera sweeps through an empty section of the airport at night. Lights flicker softly. Cleaning machines hum. A corridor stands quiet and still. Then, just at the far end, a figure steps into frame. Dark coat, hands in pockets, watching, always watching. He turns his head slightly, not at the camera, but as though listening, for footsteps, for voices, for someone small. Then he steps backward and disappears into the shadows, fade out.